地球滅亡まであと3分しかないのじゃ。
いつからそんな設定か。
And yet, still not as rushed as the climax to Boom Boonger's Cannonborg arc. Cold open for this one was actually one of the better ones for the show, as not only did it not spoil stuff later in the episode, but it also gave us a good idea of our Spotlight character. While cleaning their classroom, Momoko is still having trouble with verbal instructions, but visual, or rather illustrated instructions from a new classmate named Mio made things a lot easier, and hey, that's the same VA as Marina. Which reminds me, I never did look up what else she played. Let's see here. Zunfu, aka Keifa from Koihime Muso. Which, wait, if that's the case, then wouldn't that mean her other roles are, yeah, probably shouldn't show that. Anyway, the episode proper opened with Aiko being stalked by Miho while she was holding her sketchbook. Aiko tried to tell her friends about her little yandere-chan, but was interrupted by Nobuko and Doremi stopping by as they were both in a different class from the rest of them. Well, them and Miho, who Nobuko was able to recognize through Aiko's descriptions of her stalker. Thus, they tried to have her explain herself to them, or rather let Nobuko handle it, by reading off her fanfic. According to her, she had been lonely being in a different homeroom than Aiko, which very likely was true to the point where God came down. Neither of those a cheap-ass deity. Now hand over the iPhone 15 Pro. Actually, she just wanted a redo of the class assignments, which God couldn't provide because one can't provide anything really. But she did find a new friend in Miho after she asked about what investigators of Nostradam were doing. Well, for one thing, I think they've given up on the Assassin's Creed franchise, though really, who hasn't? The point is that they did become quick friends, and she was helping illustrate Nobuko's next big project. A project that Mio claimed that they needed to focus more on, but really you could tell what was going on here. Keifa when she doesn't have her kind-sama around. But yeah, even when they were working on their little project, Nobuko kept talking about Aiko as though this were some sort of cheap rom-com that I'd say Nobuko would come up with, but I don't think she would come up with something this trashy. Yeah, I'm just gonna come out and say it, but this plot really does feel a little too cliched for its own good, with Nobuko being as dense as lead towards Miho's feelings. You can probably predict how all of this is going to end up being resolved, and while there is going to be a few interesting little twists, yeah, it's not going to be much, but we'll get to that in due time. Thankfully though, the next part of the episode, which was really the main event of it, kinda made up for it, as the next day, Nobuko showed off the fruits of their labor in the form of a manga. Of course, it was a two-person type of work with a separate writer and illustrator, which I often really find is a more practical setup. But yeah, obviously, Nobuko wrote it, and Miho drew it, and the former wanted Aiko to be their first reader. And while there was a little issue in that Momoko still couldn't read much kanji, all they really needed to do was use their once per episode Deus Ex Machina to fix everything. With that, they used a magical stage to pull a never-ending story and put themselves directly into the manga. And since Nobuko had based every manga character on herself and her schoolmates, the Ojamajo played their corresponding characters, including some new faces in Mio and Momoko having been added to their tales.
アイコ隊員、油断するな。ここはもう奴らのテリトリー。
In Soviet Russia, manga needs you. But yeah, even though her last story was a bit more of a detective drama, I guess Nobuko decided to pull a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and transplanted similar characters from her last story into a new setting and genre, in this case a bit of a sci-fi.
I'm a number one!
Hey baby! Yep, definitely JoJo influenced. However, the Shocker Troopers from Temu summoned forth their leader, which was Reika's the Scorpion Queen. Well, at least she looks better than The Rock. However, the arrival of the kaiju led to the ground splitting and Mio falling through. Nobuto managed to save her, but Aiko also started to fall.
Nobuto-san.
Well, later bitch. Nah, of course, he saved her, and Aiko managed to save herself, which you'd think would have made her happy, but I guess like her IRL counterpart, she was still jelly over the fact that they knew each other more. And yeah, you might be able to see my main problem with this plotline. We'll get more into that later, as Dr. Warutsuki had arrived with the solution to their problems.
Doremi Robo!
I feel like this scene needs some better music.
You've got some nerve coming out here into the eye of the
Anyway, while Nobuto was supposed to be the pilot, I guess he pulled a pre-character development Simon and chickened out. I mean, yeah, I guess he might have wanted to give Aiko the spotlight, but come on dude, this is pretty much every mech anime deathflag ever. Also, if you're wondering why we used the Witch from Mercury opening for the thumbnail, it's because one of the key animators of this episode was Yoshikazu Tomita, who was a major animator for that series, in particular its opening. We've actually mentioned him multiple times back in the Futaiwa Precursor reviews, and just based on his portfolio, it's probably safe to assume that the best animation in this episode was done by him. In particular, this attack that might have been the whole basis for Yuri Yuri. Give her a combination attack with the Happy Robo, and they could surpass any combination of the Majingers or the Getters. With that, the manga ended with narration that was supposed to lead to a to be continued, but between the narrator's tone and the sudden end of the world subplot, I kind of got more sudden cancellation vibes, which honestly, I think Toei could use a few more of these days. Anyway, while the Doremi Robo was hilariously complaining about not being able to change back, we got some rather wicked tonal whiplash when Miho's tears just kind of broke through the pages. I mean, yeah, I get that it was because she had cried over the to be continued text, but still, it was just kind of weird and sudden. Anyway, encouraged by her friends, Aiko went to see Miho to sort out her obvious issues with her. And with only about 3 minutes left in the episode, I don't think they could have done much with this plot point. Of course, it turned out that Miho was jealous of how much Nobuko tended to talk to Aiko due to the 1-year advantage she had over her, which, yeah, was a little petty when it was clear that she was also at least good friends with her, and being the second best friend was more of a self-imposed label on her part.
It's no big deal, really.
Granted, this was a good moment for Aiko, with her consulting her and pointing out how she and Ompu were transfer students who met Doremi and Hazuki late into the school year, and yet they were able to become a tightly knit circle of friends. Yeah, it proved that she was best girl, but that's pretty much well known at this point, so it wasn't really anything new or interesting for her. With that though, the episode ended with Miho confronting Nobuko about her feelings towards her, and surprisingly for her, she just straightforward said they were best friends. It's a good thing this episode tickled my love for big robots, because otherwise it would have just been kind of eh. Granted, Miho's storyline was kind of overshadowed by all of the mech stuff, but even then, I don't think it was even that grippy of a conflict to begin with. Again, I still really like the over-the-top mech stuff that I'll probably just skip to and forget about everything else in this episode, really. While she had a bit of an understandable problem, Miho's issue just didn't feel all that significant, especially after it was revealed that her whole beef was just that Aiko became friends with Nobuko before her. Now, if we had gotten to know her more, then maybe I would have been a little more invested, like show more scenes such as the cold opener where she helped Momoko with illustrations. We'd be able to see her dedication to her art and how she wanted others to really appreciate it beyond just Nobuko. As is, I don't know, her story is just kind of there for me. Thankfully though, the main event of the episode with the prototype Happy Robo did more to make up for it. Between the entertainingly ridiculous story that seemed to be a send-up to several of Toei's other dynamic super robot anime, to just some great Tomita animation, there was a lot to be entertained by here. About the only thing that was missing was a little Obari, but that would be a story for another day. Thus, and while I can't say this was a great episode overall due to the meal stuff just kind of being there, I can still say this is a very fun and memorable one just for that super robot segment. Give me more magical girls and megazords and I'll be a very happy camper. Thank you for watching, and as always, congrats on making it halfway through the week at least. We've got a few new things in the works, as well as some longer form videos that might come out in October, depending on how busy we are with that new stuff. Yeah, there's a lot going on with this channel as well as in my personal life, but we'll see how things work out. Look forward to it. Until then, though, farewell for now, my friends, and uh-oh, looks like Dr. Hell's forces are attacking again. Let's go, you two.